presentation by students. Presentation of bouquet to the chief guest, Sri Vivek Devroy. I declare the convocation open. Sri Vivek Devroy, Dr. Jayatish Sarkar, Mr. Pandit, members of the faculty, staff and students, graduating students and their parents. Good morning. So let me begin by extending a cordial welcome to our chief guest, Sri Vivek Devroy, and all of you at this 15th convocation of IGIDR. My congratulations to all the students who will be awarded degrees today. I am grateful to our chief guest, Sri Devroy, for accepting our invitation to deliver this year's convocation address. Now it's my privilege to introduce him. Sri Devroy is an economist and was educated in Ramakrishna Mission School, Presidency College, Kolkata, Delhi School of Economics, and Trinity College, Cambridge. He has worked in several professional bodies such as Presidency College, Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Department of Economic Affairs, NCAER, Rajiv Gandhi Institute for Contemporary Studies, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Center for Policy Research. He has authored several books, papers, and popular articles, and has also been a consulting editor with several newspapers. He has papers on game theory, economic theory, social and inequalities, and poverty. Some of you may not be knowing that he is also a scholar in Indology and Sanskrit. He translated the unabridged version of Mahabharata into English. Sri Debroy's translation of Mahabharata was published in a series of 10 volumes. He was chairman of the High-Powered Committee to Restructure Indian Railways. He has been a member of Niti Aayog since 2015. Currently, he is serving as chairman of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council and member of Niti Aayog. So, on behalf of Board of Management and the entire campus community, I extend Sri Vivek Debroy a very warm welcome to the Institute and to this graduation function. Turning to IGIDR, over the years, the Institute has established itself as one of the well-known and high-quality institutions in the country and abroad. In this context, as always, I acknowledge the efforts of its faculty, students, and staff, as well as continuous encouragement and support from the Reserve Bank of India and its successive governors and deputy governors. Our vision is to continue the excellence in teaching and research and reach greater heights in future. IGIDR has a strong teaching program spanning a diversity of topics in both economic theory and applied economics. In its role as deemed university, it offers MSc in economics and integrated MPhil PhD programs in development studies. We have increased the number of seats in our MSc program in the last few years. The research agenda in IGIDR is guided by contemporary policy concerns, individual faculty members' research interests, and through sponsored projects. Theoretical as well as empirical research undertaken over the years covers a wide range of topics and themes. IGIDR's research is ranked 6th in India by REPEC. Like earlier years, the progress on publications, research projects, conferences, capacity building programs this year has been satisfactory. The faculty edits 3 major journals: Journal of Quantitative Economics, Journal of Interdisciplinary Economics, and Macroeconomics and Finance in Emerging Market Economies. IGIDR faculty also serve in several important government committees such as Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, committees of RBI, National Statistical Commission, CSO, Advisory Committee on National Account Statistics, Bankruptcy Law Reforms Committee, to name a few. One of the important publications of IGIDR is India Development Report. These reports provide an independent assessment of the Indian economy, including current problems, issues, and policies. India Development Report 2017 was published recently. Dr. Kirit Parikh, who started the series, released the report in Delhi recently. Apart from macro and other chapters, first time we are having a special theme by focusing on trade and manufacturing in the 2017 report. It has some interesting papers in this theme. For example, the report has chapters on make what in India and make where in India. As part of the outreach program, the Institute also organized IGIDR PhD Colloquium. The 2 main objectives of this colloquium were first to foster excellence in research by stimulating interactions among young researchers, and 2, enhancing capacity building. So about 26 research students from 21 different institutions spread across the country presented their work in full paper sessions and poster sessions. Apart from special lectures, there was a panel discussion on life after PhD. The PhD colloquium was highly appreciated by the students. As part of 30 years celebration of IGIDR, we also organized in December last year a symposium on future of India, involving former chief economic advisors and industry. This suggestion was given by Dr. Y.V. Reddy. former governor of RBI. All the former chief economic advisors and some representatives from industry attended the symposium. Shri Debroy also gave a speech at the symposium. So 6 topics were discussed. The 6 topics selected have some connection with the IGIDR research work. So I will give briefly 1 or 2 issues under each topic. First topic is the macroeconomy, finance and regulation. So on growth, India's $2.5 trillion economy can become $10 trillion by 2030 if growth rate is 7.7% per annum. A faster growth of 9% will give it $4 trillion more. That will be $14 trillion by more of GDP. But can India growth rate accelerate to above 7% and sustain it for a long time? In the last few years, some reforms were undertaken, including GST. Are these reforms and demographic dividend enough to go for higher growth? In the financial sector, lots of changes are happening. Are the present measures like bank recapitalization and insolvency bankruptcy code enough to revive the banking sector and solve the twin balance sheet problem? How do we use financial sector to help the real sector? How do we align macroprudential regulation with macroeconomic policy? Of course, now there is a lot of debate on privatization of public sector banks. The second topic is structural transformation, sectoral issues on agriculture, industry and services. We all know that there is a disconnect between GDP shares and employment shares across sectors. In terms of GDP, there has been a structural change from agriculture to services. In terms of employment, agriculture is still the largest employer. So of particular concern is that the inability of manufacturing so far to be an engine of structural transformation for both GDP as well as employment. The third one is labor and employment and technology. The biggest challenge in India is the creation of jobs, particularly quality of jobs. There are severe underemployment problems. We have to create 8 to 10 million jobs per year in the next decade or so. Another issue is how do we create jobs and manage the challenge of technological change, because global trends also technological change is happening. Whether new technologies like automation, robotics and artificial intelligence take away jobs in India due to automation in developed countries and within India. Some estimates show that apart from replacing taxi drivers, accountants, robots may replace 33% of economists. So many of us may lose jobs. After some years, the robots may speak, give speeches in my place. So we have to be ready for some of these challenges. But on net basis, with surplus labor, employment may increase, because many people feel even with artificial intelligence and all, the employment net may increase over time. The fourth topic is trade, geopolitical challenges and opportunities. This is an important topic and needs a lot of attention in the policies relating to future of India. Although we limited that to trade because of our research here, geopolitical challenges cuts across all the topics. Anti-globalization and protectionism are increasing. US has already increased tariffs on steel and aluminum, and also increasing tariffs on Chinese goods, and China may retaliate and trade wars may increase. In fact, in the recent union budget in India, one proposal many economists did not like is increase in customs duties of 50 items. The fifth topic is physical infrastructure. The importance of infrastructure is well known, so I won't talk much about the physical infrastructure. The last one, the sixth topic we discussed, is the social and environmental dimensions. We all know the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It clearly brings out the integrated nature of the various developmental problems. The issue in health and education also well known, because countries' progress on both these aspects leaves much to be desired. In a recent book on structural change, Danny Roderick et al. Say that developing countries like India, structural change moving from one sector to another is not enough. we need fundamental changes, particularly human capital, which is essential for development. So these are the 6 topics we discussed. We are bringing out a volume based on presentations and discussions in the Symposium on Future of India. Now I turn to the degrees awarded. Since its inception in the late 1980s, IGIDR in the last 30 years has awarded 102 PhDs, 91 MPhils, and 244 MSc degrees. At this convocation, 5 PhD, 5 MPhil, and 28 MSc degrees are to be awarded. I am add that out of 28 MSc who are getting awards, this time 46% are females, 5 MPhil who are getting awards, 40% are females, but for PhD students who are getting awards, 60% we have females. So generally every year it's dominated by females, so we have some gender balance this year. So we have this year more females for PhD students, but more males for MSc and MPhil degrees. So I am happy to inform you that our students have been remarkably successful in getting placements, both from academic institutions in India and abroad, as well as from leading corporates, government organizations, and financial institutions. There is a demand for IGIDR students in various sectors. There is already a large and vibrant network of IGIDR alumni in academic institutions and corporate sector. The alumni form the core of economics faculty at several institutions of national importance such as IIMs, IITs, ISID, JNU, Madras School of Economics, NCIER, NIPFP, and some of the emerging private universities in the country. They also occupy top managerial positions in multinational enterprises in India and abroad. So finally, once again, I congratulate the students who will be awarded the degrees at this convocation, and I wish all of them success in all their future activities. Thank you very much. Yeah. We have now conferment of degrees and Chancellor's medals by Sri Vivek Debroy.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my absolute privilege to introduce our awardees this year. First, the PhD degrees. D. Sugandhi. Prateek Mitra. Rajneesh Kumar. Tirtha Chatterjee in absentia. Soumya Dhanaraj in absentia. Now moving on to MPhil degrees. Saesh Navrekar in absentia. Geeta Garg in absentia. Anupam Naskar in absentia. Soumyaditya Pal in absentia. Sakshi Upadhyay in absentia. Now I would like to invite our MSc degree awardees. Prashant Shukla. Amitoj Singh. Rohit Arora. Indranil Datta Barua. Lisa Tonia Kolako. Ekta. Utsopal Mustafi. Prithu Sharma. Subhashri Banerjee. Prasiddhi Arora. Barnana Ganguly. Janika Jain. Asmita Soumitra Chatterjee. Him Bhatt. Bhagyashree Chattopadhyay. Vikram Singh. Ashwin Bajaj. Amruta Ghare. Ayushi Gupta. Anirudh Jayaraman. Serene Khatiwara in absentia. Deepak Rawat in absentia. Aditya Pathak in absentia. Mohammad Jahid Ibn Jalal in absentia. Stanzan Tashi in absentia. Priyam Roy in absentia. Now, Sri Shaha. Shri is also one of the awardees of the Chancellor's Gold Medal for the best performing student in the MSc Economics program during the year 2015-17. A big hand for her. Gagandev S. Sachdeva. Gagandev project is also being awarded the Chancellor's Gold Medal for the best performing student in the MSc Economics program during the year 2015-17. Give him a big hand. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I request our chief guest, Sri Vivek Debroy, to give the convocation address.
Dr. Mahendra Dev, Dr. Sarkar, Mr. Pandit, faculty members, graduating students, parents, other invitees. As the director informed you, I was here at IGIDR not very long ago. But it's a great honor to be here, to be invited to be the chief guest at a convocation ceremony. I'm deeply honored, particularly when I look at the distinguished list of people who have been invited at past convocations. I'm also gratified that this is an IGIDR convocation, because I've been to convocations where your arms begin to ache. This is a convocation. The word convocation itself has a Western kind of nuance. It has a slightly different nuance in the British tradition, a slightly different kind of nuance in the US tradition, but it's a Western notion nonetheless. Had it been a traditional Indian kind of convocation, the words that we might have used today are either Dikshant Samarah or Samavartan. Samavartan is in some sense, in terms of its nuance, is in some sense most significant, because the word Samavartan means return. Traditionally, students have been away at their Gurukul, studying. Having completed their studies, Samavartan is a return, a threshold in life, stepping beyond what used to be called Brahmacharya into a new stage of life, which more often than not used to be that of a householder. Hence Samavartan. A threshold, a new stage in life, one of our traditional sanskaras, and before every particular sanskara there used to be a purification ceremony, at least in terms of taking a bath. Which is why in the traditional system, anyone graduating would be called a snataka, from the word snana, the same root. So you're snatakas, in absentia otherwise, and this is about life after MSc, life after MPhil, and life after PhD. There are no profound words of wisdom I have to deliver to you. You have got all the skills go out into the world extremely well equipped, because this happens to be IGIDR. So in terms of what is happening to the economy, what you should know about, I have absolutely nothing to tell you. Instead, I have some random thoughts. I don't know what your average age is, perhaps about 25, maybe a little bit older. When you are at the age, if not 25, let's say at the age of 20, you want to take on the world. You're raring to go. At the age of 20, you want to take on the world. At the age of 40, you find that the world has taken you on. At the age of 60, which is what my dear friend Mahendra and I are roughly at, you find it doesn't matter one way or the other. And at the age of 80, if you survive that long, and you might very well survive that long because life expectancies have been going up, at the age of 80 you discover that both you and life and the world, everything is an illusion. It doesn't matter. But you're ready to take on this world, and you have absolutely no idea what that world is going to bring to you. No matter how much of planning you do, every plan that you can conceive of today is bound to go wrong. Typically, it's not going to happen. So therefore, as a benediction, I will not tell you, may you get what you want. Instead, I will tell you, may you want what you get. And that will be a very major learning experience. Some of you will probably be headed abroad for cards, green or otherwise. The rest of my remarks do not apply to such people. The rest of my remarks apply to people who are not going to vanish to elusive shores. Quite often, you will be very critical of the government. Legitimately so. Whether you look at it from the perspective of a foreign shore or the perspective of working here, you will legitimately be critical of the government. The government should do this, the government should do that. Why doesn't the government do this? We all have our expectations on the part of the government. When you have these expectations on the part of the government, remember, apples are apples and oranges are oranges. All said and done, India's per capita income today is about $1,800 US. There's a completely apocryphal story attributed to Lord Keynes. Anything that sounds clever and you do not know who said it in the area of economics is invariably attributed to Lord Keynes. $1,800 US, is it high or low? I don't know. Many things in life are relative. And apparently Lord Keynes was once asked, how is your wife? And he said, compared to whose wife? So exactly in that fashion, $1,800 US. Well, the rich countries in the world today have per capita incomes that are in excess of $75,000 US. And the United States, not today, not in the 1970s, but in the 1870s, the United States, 1870s mind you, had a per capita income in today's dollars of about $3,000 US. So when we have expectations on the part of the government in all its three layers, union government, state government and local governments, let us remember what we are talking about. A, governments will have limited fiscal capacity. B, governments will have limited administrative capacity. So when one is critical of the government, cast your minds back, not to what the United States is today, not to what Europe is today, but to what the United States and Europe were like 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. That's the right kind of benchmark. Remember, I did not say don't be critical. Be critical. But A, remember that. And B, remember, the preamble to the Indian Constitution does not say we the government. It begins we the people. India is not going to change. India will not become a developed country, whatever be the definition of developed. India will not become a more better governed country if we expect governments alone to do it. It's we the people. You are privileged. You are privileged because you have access to higher education. The numbers have gone up dramatically. The enrollment ratio, at least cross-enrollment ratio in higher education has inched up to more than 25% now. Earlier it used to be much lower, but only 25% and a little bit more. The vast majority of the Indian population, the so-called young India, still does not have access to higher education. When it has access to higher education, it is access to higher education of somewhat dubious quality. You have not only got access to higher education, you have got access to higher education in one of the best places in the country in the area of economics. And at some point, one has to pay back. One should pay back. When I say one has to pay back, one should pay back, I do not mean you should not make money. Of course you should, as long as you do it through legitimate means. We began with Saraswati Vandana. Traditionally, it has been believed that Saraswati and Lakshmi do not coexist. But notice both Saraswati and Lakshmi are seated on lotuses. One is a white lotus, the other is a red lotus. So if the base is a lotus, then Saraswati and Lakshmi can presumably coexist. But that's neither here nor there. It's perfectly fine to make wealth as long as you are doing it through legitimate means. But I'm not talking about corporate social responsibility, which is mandated or quasi-mandated. I'm just making out the obvious point that unless we as citizens, unless we as privileged citizens do our little bit in making India a better place, unless we as citizens stop seceding, India will not become a better place. And this India that we are talking about, it is not ours. It has been left to us by our former generations in trust. You as representatives of young India are getting it today as a trust, which you will leave to the future generations. In that sense, the future of India is in your hands. When we talk about India 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, Mahendra and I are not going to be alive, hopefully. But you will live in that future India. And hence that responsibility vests in you. The next bit of what I am about to say will probably make no sense to you. And this is that elusive notion of happiness, which is impossible to define. But throughout your life, and remember, as I said, you don't really know what destiny will bring for you. And I hope you may find your destiny. Throughout your lives, quite often you will look for this elusive happiness in terms of external objects and external relationships, external possession of objects, external relationships in terms of relationships with the parents, with the father, with the mother, with the in-laws, with the sons, the daughters, the subordinate, the boss. True happiness will never come from that. The true happiness, the true contentment comes from within yourselves. It does not come from competing with others. It comes from discovering the destiny that is innately latent within yourselves. Quite often, we pursue the elusive. Somewhere down the line, we realize pursuing the elusive will not grant you that contentment. That contentment is inside you. But that is for you to discover yourself. The only little bit of advice I can offer you is marry wisely and judiciously. Because that can be a big asset, particularly if you are doing things that involve risk aversion. No faculty member here, and I hope I am not provoking anyone, has been able to explain to you what makes entrepreneurship happen. Entrepreneurship is the act of risk-taking. I can give you the tools to become an entrepreneur, I can teach you the skills. But entrepreneurship, I do not think is something that can inherently be taught. And entrepreneurship in its nature is risk-taking. So I hope some of you, I heard that the placement record is excellent, but I hope some of you no longer look for jobs, but actually become entrepreneurs and actually create jobs for the people and take those risks. Risks, definitionally, mean encouraging failure. If I do not encourage failure, I cannot encourage success. 90 to 95% of ventures actually fail. So I hope some of you will take that risk, some of you will take that entrepreneurial venture, which is why also I suggested marry judiciously. In the nature of my job, I travel widely within India. And when I travel throughout India, particularly when I talk to the young, I discover a vibrating, pulsating, throbbing, impatient India. It is an India that is full of that entrepreneurship. So as I said, I hope you pursue that. And I hope you find that happiness and the shanti within yourselves. Ask yourself a question to which I am not going to give the answer. We heard the Saraswati Vandana, and at the end of it we heard Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Why did that invocation have Shanti 3 times? Why not 17 times? Why not 19 times? Why not once, why thrice? There is a reason, and I hope you discover all 3 varieties of Shanti. Finally, I was born in India. I worked in India. I think all of you have been born in India. I hope you will continue to work in India. And here is an India that is waiting. Here is an India that is for you to build. Here is an India that is for you to live in trust. From the snowy capped mountains of Kashmir to where the ocean beats against the shore in Kanyakumari, from the arid salty deserts of Gujarat to the lush green forests of Arunachal Pradesh. That is the India you have been born in. That India is in the air you breathe. That India is in the water you drink. That India is in the food you eat. Go out and build that new India. My best wishes to all of you. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Shri Debrai, for your convocation address. Now I declare the convocation closed. We have national anthem by students.
Requesting everyone to be seated in the hall till the time the dignitaries on the dais, the faculty and the students leave the hall. Thank you.